He was sitting at his small kitchen table, one hand stirring cold coffee, the other scrolling through his phone while his 5-year-old son slept on the couch behind him. It had been a long day. 2 jobs, 1 sick kid, and a landlord reminder taped to the door. His phone buzzed with a message from Lena, a woman he'd met through a parenting forum who had recently started flirting with him. For the first time in a while, someone was talking to him like he wasn't just a tired single dad. He typed back without thinking. "If you were here, I'd make you dinner and prove I'm better company than your job." He hit send. Then his stomach dropped. The name at the top of the screen wasn't Lena. It was Claire Reynolds, CEO, cold, untouchable. Claire Reynolds was his boss's boss's boss, the woman whose name sat on the top floor of the company website, whose emails were short, formal, and terrifying. Ethan had once seen her in person at a company event. Sharp suit, ice-calm eyes, the kind of woman who made rooms go quiet. His blood ran cold. "No, no, no," Ethan whispered, frantically trying to unsend the message. Too late. Delivered. Read. He stared at the screen, heart pounding, waiting for the professional equivalent of a firing squad. Minutes passed. No reply. Great, he thought. She's reporting me to HR. He stood up and paced the tiny apartment, running a hand through his hair. He imagined the call tomorrow morning. Inappropriate conduct. Immediate termination. He thought of his son, of daycare fees, of how close everything already was to falling apart. Then his phone buzzed. One new message. "Claire Reynolds, your address?" Ethan froze. His hand shook as he reread it. This wasn't HR, this wasn't a warning, this was worse, or stranger. Why would she need his address? Before he could talk himself out of it, there was a knock at the door. Sharp, certain. Ethan's heart nearly stopped. He walked slowly down the hallway, every step heavy with dread. When he opened the door, the hallway light spilled in, and there she was. Claire Reynolds stood in front of him in a tailored coat, heels planted firmly, phone in hand. Her expression was unreadable. Calm, controlled. Behind Ethan, his son stirred on the couch. Claire's eyes flicked past Ethan, softening for just a fraction of a second. Then she looked back at him and said quietly, "I think you sent that message to the wrong person." Ethan swallowed hard, and in that moment he knew his life was about to change, one way or another. Ethan's mouth opened, then closed. A dozen apologies rushed to his mind, tangled and useless. "Ms. Reynolds, I'm so sorry. That text wasn't meant for you. It was a mistake. I completely understand if I fire you," Claire finished calmly. He nodded, shoulders tense. "Yes." She glanced down the hallway again toward the small living room where his son was now half awake, rubbing his eyes. The hardness in her expression eased, just slightly. "May I come in?" she asked. Ethan stepped aside immediately. "Of course." Claire walked in, taking in the apartment in a single, practiced scan. Second-hand furniture, toys stacked neatly in a corner, a folded blanket on the couch. Nothing extravagant. Nothing hidden. "I won't stay long," she said. "I just didn't want to handle this through email." Ethan's heart pounded. "I understand." She turned to face him. "You work in operations, you're never late, you cover extra shifts, you decline promotions that would require relocation." She paused. "Why?" Ethan hesitated, then gestured toward his son. "Because he comes first, always." Claire studied him for a long moment, as if weighing something far heavier than a disciplinary decision. "That text," she said finally, "was inappropriate." Ethan nodded quickly. "Absolutely. And I take full responsibility." "But," she continued, "it was also human." Her voice softened. Direct. Warm. Something people don't usually risk being anymore. Ethan looked up, surprised. "My life," Claire said quietly, "is nothing but controlled messages, carefully worded, no mistakes allowed." She met his eyes. "Yours was honest, accident or not." Silence settled between them, not uncomfortable, just real. "I'm not here to fire you," she said at last. Relief hit Ethan so hard he had to grip the back of a chair. "Thank you." She slipped her phone back into her coat pocket. "I came because I wanted to see who would dare send a message like that." A faint smile touched her lips. and to make sure my company isn't crushing someone who's already caring enough. From the couch, Ethan's son spoke softly. Daddy? Ethan turned. Hey, buddy. Claire crouched slightly to his level. Hi, I'm Claire. The boy studied her seriously. Are you the boss? Claire smiled, genuinely this time. Something like that. She stood, meeting Ethan's gaze again. We'll talk later on equal terms. For now, get some rest. As she turned to leave, Ethan realized something unmistakable had just happened. A mistake had opened a door, and neither of them was ready to close it yet. She paused at the door, her hand resting on the handle, as if she were reconsidering a lifetime of habits. Then she turned back. Tomorrow, she said. Take the afternoon off paid. Ethan blinked. Are you sure? Yes, she replied. Not as your CEO, as a human being who interrupted your evening. He nodded, unsure what to say. Thank you. Claire glanced once more at the small apartment, then at the sleeping child on the couch. You're doing something right, she said quietly. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. With that, she left. The door closed, and Ethan stood there for a long moment listening to the silence. Not the heavy kind he was used to, but something lighter. Possibility. The next afternoon, Ethan took his son to the park for the first time in weeks. They shared fries, laughed too loud, and for once, Ethan didn't check his phone every 5 minutes. Life felt steady. That evening, a message appeared. Claire Reynolds, dinner offer still open? This time intentional. Ethan stared at the screen, then smiled, slowly, cautiously. Ethan, yes, but I warn you, my cooking's better than my texting. 3 dots appeared, then, Claire, I like honest risks. Weeks passed, and their conversations grew, first careful, then curious. She asked about his routines. He asked about the pressure behind her calm exterior. They met for coffee, then dinner. No titles, no expectations. Claire learned that strength didn't always wear confidence. It sometimes wore exhaustion and kept going anyway. Ethan learned that cold often meant lonely and that control was sometimes just armor. One night after his son had fallen asleep, Ethan looked around the same small apartment where panic had once gripped his chest. The mistake that should have ended everything had done the opposite. It hadn't fixed his life. It hadn't magically erased struggle, but it had reminded him and her that connection often begins where fear ends. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is send a message without knowing who might answer.